let's talk about inspiration and where you should get your inspiration from. Start this video by stating I don't think there's just one place you should get your inspiration from, but I think you could pull inspiration from a ton of things. Now, I think you can get your inspiration from things and people, right? Whether these are fictional or non-fictional characters, whether this is you just get inspiration out in nature, or you get them from movies, you get them from TV shows, you get them from music, whatever it may be. I don't think that there's just one source of inspiration. Now, let's make one thing clear. There could be very negative sources of inspiration. Now, let's talk about positive, or I guess positive in my eyes, because other people can perceive them as not positive. I was always a kid that found inspiration in music and movies. A movie in particular was The Dead Poets Society. I watched that when I was really young, and after I watched the film, I was very inspired just to always seek knowledge. It was more of I looked at those characters in that movie, and I thought they were like cool, and I wanted to be like them. Obviously, those schools are very expensive, private schools like that, but just to be somebody with some sense of knowledge of the world around him. I think a group that inspired me the most growing up was Metallica. And the reasoning behind this has changed as I've gotten older. When I was a kid, I just loved their dark, just heavy music. I liked the beats, and I always connected it with my camp, going up to my camp. Every time we got to the bottom of the hill and we were driving up the hill, my dad would step out, get a drink out the cooler, because we're in the middle of nowhere, and he would put on a CD of Metallica, Ride the Lightning, and he'd play Enter Sandman and Fade to Black. So that always brought me back to that experience and that memory. And as I've gotten older, once I started hitting high school and that, and I obviously always listened to them before football, even when I was 5 years old, and wrestling and such. They've just always had the ability to I physically feel their music. It's one of the very few musicians in the world that I could physically feel their music when it's playing. It creates a bodily reaction out of me. As I got older, my inspiration from them changed from just I like their music, I like the heaviness of it. It's fun to listen to a deeper. There was something deeper that I was taking from their music and from them as I started to get older, because I was not so much focusing on just the music, but I actually started to dive into who the band members are, where they're from, and just understand them from any little YouTube video I could watch of them, right? And what I've learned, it helped me to be exactly who I am and be unapologetic about who I am. They have been, from the beginning, who they are, and they have not changed. Obviously, they've grown. They've gone to rehab. There's some things that they had to fix, so they didn't destroy themselves. But what I love about Metallica is their music changes over time. They try new things, like with Saint Anger and stuff. People hated it, but it's like they're trying something new. I mean, people don't like their Reload album. That's another one. But they're trying different things, and I mean, I think it's 2018, 2017, they release Hardwired to Self-Destruct. And just the song Hardwired, it's crazy to me that men in their 50s can release songs like that. I like that they have a variety. I like that they have, I think, it's hard to say the most famous, because I think Enter Sandman is probably the most famous Metallica song of all time. But one of my favorite Metallica songs, Nothing Else Matters. It's such a drastic change in that album. How you can go from a song like Leper Messiah, Motor Breath, to Nothing Else Matters. And I don't know if the story's true or not of James Hetfield coming in and him just playing it, singing it, before anybody got there, and then Lars comes in, heard him, and James is like, he didn't really want anybody to hear that song because it's personal to him, and Lars is like, you got to release that, and I guess there was pushback for a while for him releasing that, and I think it's one of their most famous songs, believe it or not. I don't know numbers-wise, but what the inspiration I took from that, before I ramble on and get too nerdy about Metallica here, was it's okay to evolve, and while you're doing it, be unapologetically you. I say this with the most intellect I possibly can, but they quote unquote, like, gave me my balls, man. It's like, that is the key little nugget that I took from listening to their music was, don't be a bitch, and it gave me my balls, And to this day, year in and year out, when I get my little Apple Music Wrapped thing where it gives me all my music, how, it breaks it down, who your top artist is, every single year and every month of the year, Metallica is number one. If we're going to dive deep, I gravitate a lot towards Kirk Hammett, because he's such a, he rips on the guitar, and he's playing this music that is so heavy, and some of the lyrics are so fucking just fucked up, they're deep, they're violent, but yet when you watch him on stage, he has this grace to him. It looks like he's walking on a cloud, and it's what I took from that was, be a hard motherfucker, but also be smooth as butter, bro. Be cold as ice. You watch him fucking playing, and it's like he's walking on fucking clouds. He's not heavy on his feet. He's light, but he's the shit that's projecting out of him is this overwhelming weight of just music and just thrashing. And yet, he's walking on clouds. Now, as much as I love Metallica, probably my second favorite artist of all time is Rihanna. Marvin Gaye. It's build your character off people that inspire you. Look at everybody that you see around you in the world and try to find objectively something good about them, and take that like a little puzzle piece and click it into your own puzzle and carry that. Use it to get yourself to where you want to be mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, whatever. Now, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to look at philosophers and scientists and such, just because I'm incredibly in awe of how they can come up with something that was never even conceived of on this planet. And what I like the most is not the fact that they're coming up with this complex concept, but they're throwing it out there, and they are standing 10 toes down no matter what, even when the whole world is shaming them, trying to make them, like they're these villains, especially when you go, back hundreds of years when religion was at its peak, and we have men that are, like Copernicus, who's looking and going completely against the church and saying, maybe the sun and all these planets don't, revolve around us. Maybe the sun is a center. The death is on the line, but they still, no matter what, with that grave risk of death, they stood by their ideas and they stood by their theories, and they believed they were right to such an extent that they were willing to die for it. Now that gives me tremendous inspiration. Look for inspiration in movies. I mean, even video games. If you love video games, look for a certain character in a video game. Find inspiration. Book characters, movie characters, real life people. Just constantly be looking around the world for inspiration. Even you can look out into nature for inspiration. Whether it's a certain animal, you like their survival skills. There's something about them. You like the colors that they are. You think they have a style and a grace that you want to adopt, rather. Do it. You guys know the drill. I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace.